Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands, and today it's a WNR539. It's New Japan catch-up. I'm not alone. I have the pleasure to be joined by the entire WNR team. Up first by my side for every WWE and AEW show, it is a fantastic Jaxie Scarlett. How's it going, Jaxie?
Hello. This has been a long time coming. It feels kind of out of place to be, so far down into November now. But we've got a lot to catch up on with New Japan, so I'm excited for today.
I didn't want to say anything, yeah, but this was originally the G1 show and then changed to like the generic New Japan catch-up. But we're going to feature
Yep.
everything here, and again, it's good to
Yeah.
catch up, isn't it?
Exactly. I think we'll round it. We'll round everything up from the start of the summer with New Japan up till now into like a nice little ball for you, so that you guys can just get all of the updates right here. So, what better way to do it than a New Japan catch up?
Yeah, and we hope you like Jaxie's balls. Up next, our resident NXT expert and New Japan demigod, it is Monty. And Monty, is basically your fault that we do this, but we are going to get this done.
I mean, I'll take the credit for it, but at the same time, I think this is also a lot on you yourself because you make the schedule. But besides that,
well, that's semantics.
you make the schedule. But anyway, besides that, I'm always excited to talk about Little New Japan catch up, and I actually don't mind doing it this way. Not necessarily because. Yes, it would have been more timely, I believe, right after the G1, but everything from the G1 and post going into the new year, kind of just it flows together well. That's the reason why their system works the way it does. So I do think the G1 needs a recap, but at the same time, focusing on a little bit of what's happening after that and leading up to the biggest show of the new year for them. Which is basically what the G1 is all about. I think that actually gives us a good launching part to kind of go right into Wrestle Kingdom next year. So that's one positive way to look at it, if you know what I mean. But it's just like you said, it's a lot of content, but that's what they do, man. I mean, New Japan pumps out some of the best, wrestling consistently, and I'm ready to recap as much as we can.
Without doubt, last but by no means least. Well, you came along just like a song and brightened my day. Who would have believed that you were part of a dream? But now it all seems light years away. And now you know, I can't smile without you. I can't smile without you. I can't laugh. I can't sing. I'm finding it hard to do anything. You see, I feel sad when you're sad. I feel glad when you're glad. If only you knew what I'm going through. I just can't smile without you. Now, some people say happiness takes so very long to find. Well, I'm finding it hard leaving your love behind me. And you see, I can't smile without you. I can't laugh, I can't sing, I'm finding it hard to do anything. You see, I feel glad when you're glad. I feel sad when you're sad. If you only knew what I'm going through, I just can't smile without you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What show it is today? Oh, no, wait a minute. No, it's Gina. Gina's here. How's it going? I extended it for comic effect. I hope you enjoyed.
I was going to say it was an extra long version today, which is great. I'm doing great. Hello on, welcome on into the New Japan discussions.
Well, Gina, I have something to bring up before we get going with New Japan. And it's very special. This is a very special week. Do you know how special this week is, Gina? Do you have any idea what would make this week special?
I'm sure you're going to enlighten me.
Yes, well, yeah, thanks for guessing. But yes, 13th of November, 2021. This very week, 3 years ago, was your very first show on the WNR podcast, Gina. 3 years now. Unbelievable.
Wow, I can't believe it's been 3 years. It really doesn't feel like it. It feels longer. No,
Well, I appreciate that. No, but seriously, how have you? I say, have you found it? You used to be like the new girl, but now 3 years in, you're kind of old hand. But have you enjoyed the experience? Are you enjoying
I'm
it?
not old
I
now.
assume
I'm
so.
still the queen of the things. So, no, I feel like I've settled in perfectly fine. And to think of how nervous I was 3 years ago to where I am today is definitely, in my eyes, shown growth from myself because I was super shy when I first did this.
Yeah, I think without doubt, and I think to see the journey you've come on with, it's been fantastic, and you're such an important member of the team. Of course, I sing you in every week as well, so it's great to have you here, and hopefully you can continue until you get bored of being sung to, I suppose. But like I said, it's great, and also I would say that you always give a genuine opinion, no matter what. I think from your time, from when you started to now, which is great.
Unfiltered as well, always unfiltered.
Well, no one's
Thank
anything. Right, so enough of the mushy shit, and let's go on New Japan. Come on. And there was a qualifying tournament to decide the final A block participant and final B block participant for the G1. We saw some shocks in the qualifying here. Oleg Bolton managed to beat Hiroshi Tanahashi. Also, Kenta was knocked out by Callum Newman. Also, TJP, whose idea it was knocked out. Monty, I want to ask you this because, again, with Tanahashi not being involved, has there been qualifying for the G1 before? And also, how big a shock was this just to you? Because for me, I was like, oh, fuck, he should be in this.
I mean, it was a shock. I think just from the general expectation from like you said, not only long time New Japan fans, but just in general, Tanahashi's always been he's a constant. So for him to miss qualification, not only did it put over the newer talent that was able to pick up the victory, and I think that was the purpose. I also just think it also is a sign. I mean, guys who's as good as Tanahashi don't really go into that phase of older talent like a Makabe or Yuji Nagata or some of the older guys in New Japan who are typically kind of Tenzan. They're former world champions, but they are in a spotlight where they're more attached to just the name of New Japan and they're helping out the young lions and stuff like that. I don't know if Tanahashi is going to be one of those first match on the card type legends. And I think once you start seeing a guy like Tanahashi fail to qualify for the G1, it really sets in that, oh, okay, so he's closer to that area of the roster than he is to ever being the guy again in New Japan. And I think the presidential title is another thing that kind of helped me kind of understand. It's just like he's in a different spot. He's not still holding on to the feeling that he needs to be the guy. I think with Okada leaving and the fact that when Okada was there, it was a nice rivalry between Tanahashi because Okada's goal was to supplant him, and he did. And I think when Okada left, you can kind of tell, kind of in the ring, but you also can see with booking decisions like this that it's looking like Tanahashi is definitely in that category of people that are not going to be the main attract. I don't know if I ever could say he's going to be done, but like done, I can always see him coming back because Japan legends, like you watch the Battle Royal sometimes, Jay, and seen guys who's 70 years old get back in the ring. So I can never say I won't see him again because I think they might call Fujinami again, by the way, this year. So
Who's the guy that
again,
throws the headbutts? Like, I don't know, but he's probably one of my
Homa,
favourites.
Tomoki Homa is a
Yeah.
great example. Yeah, he's a death match legend, a guy who put on great matches throughout his career, and you can see the damage from it. But he's still out there giving Kakeshi, still out there throwing headbutts. So, yeah, man, I don't know, but again, I don't think we'll ever see Tanahashi in like a Homa role as just being that guy out there. I think Tanahashi is phasing himself away, and this is a great kind of showcase, and also as a test. Can the G1? Another thing? The thing is about having Tanahashi involved with so much over the years is who's putting butts in the seats for some of these tournaments, and I think this is another time to test this new generation of stars to see if they can still put on the numbers wise as far as people in Japan who want to see it. Even though we know now that Tanahashi is not going to be in the G1, so you can't just come to see Tanahashi one last time. So now let's see if we can promote with ZSJ, if we can promote with Naito and whoever else that was making it up to G1, and give a guy like Oleg a platform of the G1 to show that potential that we all know he had.
Yeah, right. I want to expand on a couple of things in a minute, but we'll do July 5th, which was Callum Newman and Oleg Bolton qualifying for the G1. But also in the main event, El Desperado defended the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title against Doki. Both competitors enjoyed time on top in the contest, but it was Doki who had the night with his hand raised. The ring filled confetti as Doki was announced the Junior Heavyweight Champion. He also ended El Desperado's fourth reign as champion at 19 days. I mean, he did it, Monty. This is the kind of thing, I don't know if we've mentioned how much of the podcast Doki has grown with me. But to win the title here and, finally have his moment, obviously it means more to you, but I will take credit for this as well.
Yeah, I'm glad it grew on you, man. But yeah, it's 100%. It's been an amazing journey from the streets of Mexico, and just the way he kind of came in and was kind of known as the bad member of Suzuki-gun. He was just always, taken for granted. He was going to be the one to get pinned, and his evolution and who he's become and how popular he's become and how much better he's gotten, just to be honest, because he also improved in the ring. He got in shape, and just you could just see so much potential that I'm not sure he had. And I thought it was not only a great moment that Doki overcame and won this match in a really good match. It's a well-structured match, in my opinion. You can see Desperado kind of being cocky, but what I love the most about Desperado getting caught with with the underdog, type of upset deal was that Desperado and Doki are, I don't know if I want to say it's kayfabe, but they're like brothers. They're related. Like that was kind of the Suzuki-gun connection, with that Doki was El Desperado's brother. So for Desperado to be the guy, not only because he is the premier junior heavyweight in the division, pretty much the number one, or at least 1B, however you want to do it. Desperado is right there at the top of this division. To have it to be Desperado, who was dethroned by Doki, with their personal history, and like we talked about, just how the people were behind Doki and supported him being in this spot, and just the overall conversation about it after it happened, because again, Doki earned this, and I thought it was a special moment, and like I'm glad you were happy about it, because you only got a chance to see a portion of his ride, but it didn't take long for him to kind of win you over. And I think even without knowing like the fact that he was looked at as a loser, or the fact that his first few matches when he debuted didn't go as planned, so a lot of people wasn't sure about him. He stood back, he worked his ass off, and now he's one of the highlights for everybody.
Yeah, doubt. Right, so talk about the G1 blocks. Block A, we had Naito, of course, the champion, Evil, Shingo, Shota Umino, Sanada, Zack Sabre Jr., Greater Khan, Gabe Kidd, and Jake Lee from Noah. Block B had Kazuka Takeshita from AEW, Yuri Uemura, Goto, El Fantasmo, Jeff Cobb, Yota Tsuji, Hinari, David Finlay, and Ren Narita. Now, Jaxie, I'll ask you this because, again, as I spoke about earlier, we have done a couple of G1 reviews now. How does this line up compare to previous ones that you've seen, and does it miss like an Okada?
Do you know what? That being said, I felt like this was such a refreshing lineup. In terms of just seeing how many fresh new faces. Now, this is coming from someone who is probably, like you just openly said, this is like my third G1. So I'm not very well accustomed to these, all of the New Japan roster as of yet. However, to see the evolution of some of these guys, and kind of, where they're starting at within the G1 from this year has actually been like such a highlight. So, for example, the likes of Bolton and Oleg, you've already talked briefly about sort of like the shock sort of win that he got in the first sort of round and things like that. Even sort of like a more aggressive Gabe Kidd coming into it. You've got like all these other sort of fresh faces that have actually started making names for themselves. And when I say that, I mean those like Yota Tsuji. I've forgotten his full name, but it's like Yuya. Like the one who, yeah, that's a Yuya Mura. You've even got like, people that we didn't really expect to like actually be like big, like Ren Narita, and other contestants who where I'm getting a mind blank at the moment. But those type of contestants where I was just really thinking to myself, this is a very interesting lineup to put in. It's not that we're missing veterans, but if anything, there's a lot more intrigue to be like who will everyone get behind now that the veterans of the G1 are no longer part of it. So I think there was a lot of intrigue going into like the start of this G1 because of a lot of the fresh new young faces that we had joining, as well as like sort of familiar faces that you're getting from across the pond. I was really relieved to see that Takeshita was definitely going to be a part of the G1 for sure.
Yeah, without doubt. And again, I mean, Gina, this is the question I was going to ask you, that anybody's got your eyes on. Again, Takeshita seemed the most exciting because we know how good he was from what we've seen in AEW.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely look forward to seeing Takeshita. He's been one of my favorites in the AEW for a while now. So he was one of the main ones I was keeping my eye on. But I'm not gonna lie, I oddly feel biased towards Tsuji as well. I think like ever since the hair versus hair feud, I found myself deeply like engrossed in that storyline, and now I feel a sense of like protectiveness over Tsuji. So I think he's become another kind of favorite of mine on the New Japan roster. So he was another one that I was really looking forward to watching in this tournament.
Right, well, we had the press conference, which I think is essential viewing for anybody maybe never seen a G1 before to go watch this, because again it explains quite a lot. Naito in his 15th G1, nice shorts by Sanada. Gabe could take his time, and then people realised he wasn't there. Jake Lee's not the happiest. I mean, if I was watching as a neutral, I would say Shingo was the biggest star, just the way he presented himself. Shooter said his back is 100%, which was a lie. Newman looked like he was there for a job interview. I mean, it's his first, so nerves will be a factor. Sanada promised top 3. Gabe showed up and told everyone to shut up and fuck off. Like you said, Jaxie, aggressive attitude. He said, fuck everything. G1 is the number 1 tourney. Naito, Shingo, Sanada let him talk. He called Great Akana bald cunt, and then he thought a joke. I mean, say how you feel, Gabe,
That was so funny. Like, he's such a mood. Like, right, I remember actually watching this, and like, it kind of like, it's going along smoothly, and then all of a sudden Gabe comes on, and just like this whole atmosphere of seriousness is just cut short with him and his gobby mouth, and he literally just goes off on one. You just think that he's probably memorized all of this in the mirror, walked out and was like, fuck it, I'm going to do this all now, and just let it all out.
I felt sorry for the translator after Gabe. I'm not. I mean, how do you translate?
He's going to be like, wait, give me a second. Hold on. Give me a second.
Zack and Evil had nothing to say. Block B, and Gotto's been in 17 of them as well. I mean, he's been half of all the G1s. I'm not saying who, but some talent definitely went to the hat shop. Finn looked sharp. Takeshita looked like security. Ren looked like a teacher. Your haircut has really worked. As we mentioned, hair versus hair, he looks great now. Hanari was eating the pudding that Yota Tsuji gave everyone. I mean, Monty, what was the story with the pudding? Do we know? Or was it just, has he got a sales pitch, or?
I got nothing.
Is this another Naomi and Banoffee Pie situation?
Maybe, but if it is, no one explained it. So it was just as random as you just broke it down to me when I was watching.
Right, I didn't know there was an explanation for fun. Oleg did look like a monster, and Cobb made Hanari crack up, which made me laugh. So July 20th, Len. Louder, the theme song went hard. Walker Stewart, Chris Charlton with commentary throughout the G1. The first match of the G1 saw Oleg Bolton, fully graduated from Young Lion status, complete with music and powder blue gear, beating Ren Narita. I mean, he did look like Ric Flair, Monty. I'm not going to lie, but I know a lot of people said that. But it's great, again, to see someone like Oleg fully graduated now. We haven't seen that many Young Lions. Well, we have seen loads, but to see one in front of our eyes, so to speak.
Yeah, he's one that I think from the moment I seen him as a young lion, I knew big things were on the horizon, or somebody I could see if he dedicated to it, and I could see him having a long, or at least a very prosperous career, just because of what he's legit too. You know, he's like he has an amateur background, and I think that kind of helps also. But again, you're 100% right. The way he's presented here, the way he looks, it really matches everything about him as a wrestler. So that I've gotten to know, and yeah, I think that has a lot to do with where we are in this era of this roster. For a long time, New Japan has had a great veteran presence, and you kind of sprinkle in new faces, but they lean on their deepness and most of these vets are still here. And don't get me wrong, they're still here now. But I believe you can tell this year with people like Oleg, with Gabe Kidd, with even Callum Newman, and just some of the other. You just tell, like you mentioned when you guys were bringing up, talking about the lineup. You can just tell that this is an emphasis on. Let's see how we know these guys. We know a lot of our talent can wrestle. We train them to be some of the best wrestlers, but can they go out here and can they produce and perform and provide enough for us in a G1 situation? And I think that's what this press conference. And I think him showcasing himself well is just the beginning. But that's what this is about.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, so let's get to it then. So, Block A, Callum Newman defeated Shooter Umino in a bit of a surprise. Block B, Hinari defeated El Fantasma. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Greater Khan in Block A with Zack Driver for the pin. I mean, what kind of idiot would say it's coming home? Do you know what I mean? We'll see what happens with Zack. Gina, probably the first time I'm going to mention it. Might be the last. But, I mean, Zack in the G1, he's got a good chance this year. What are your thoughts about his chances?
I mean, I think his chances are good, especially because of his confidence in himself and his arrogance. So I think that's definitely going to lead into, helping him get through the G1 tournament itself. So plus, like I said, he's quite hot. Everybody in Japan seemed to be, really warming to Zack. So the odds look good in his favor for sure.
Are you warming to Zack, or are you still, because we know.
I
I'm
mean,
not going to tell everybody what happened, but you had the chance, didn't you? But
you've created this beef
I
more
didn't
than
create this.
than.
No, I didn't. You turned him
Yes,
down.
you did, James. You've created this beef. All I said was he
Totally
was
are
rude.
shit stirring, James.
He is.
She just called him
He was
arrogant.
rude
Just
to
saying.
me on my birthday, so I just told him to,
Kind of true.
watch his mouth. That's all. But aside from that,
I mean,
we're good.
definitely. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
we'll see what happens. We'll come back.
Cash and Dax were definitely a lot more, friendlier. So we still had a great experience.
Yeah, well, they're not in the G1. Block B match, Jeff Cobb defeated Goto. Cobb looked good. Jake Lee defeated Sonada in a Block A match. He squashed him, really. That was kind of fashion. Are you all right, Monty? That was...
Oh, man. Don't get me started. Just go. It was less than 5 minutes. I cannot stand Jake Lee.
I'll tell you what
Let's
annoyed
go.
me more than that was Evil beating Gabe Kidd next. When that happened, I was just like, for fuck's sake, Gabe. Like, he's a killer, and he's losing to Evil thanks to fucking Dick.
No, that really pissed me off. Like, again, for me, like, Gabe Kidd is so fucking angry, and you couldn't even get one over on Evil. That pissed me off a little bit.
We had Block B match, Takeshita defeating Yota Tsuji. Gina, I'll give you this because this is the kind of future of wrestling here, and both delivered in this matchup.
Yeah, they did. I mean, again, I was just more interested in watching Tsuji, so I was more focused on him than both of them, but still, they did well.
Like we said with Takeshita as well, it looked like he fit right in. We see Shingo defeating Naito. Shingo scored the win with the last of the Dragon. Naito didn't cover himself in glory, but apparently it was like a sauna, Shingo said. So, and backstage comments are always fun for explanations like that. July 21st, Block A, Sonada defeated Callum Newman. Block B, Hinari defeated Oleg Bolton. Gabe Kidd defeated Greater Khan. Block A, and Ren Narita defeated El Fantasma. Block B, Evil defeated Jake Lee. In Block A, Block B, Yu Uemura defeated Hiroki Goto. Shooter Umino defeated Shingo. Monty, I mean, was this I don't want to call it shock, but again, is this a statement that Umino is on Shingo's level now with a result like this?
I think that's the attempt. Yes, the attempt to kind of establish him in that same light. And I think you'll see during the G1 and much later on in the year just how some of the people may feel about Shota Umino in this position. But yeah, that's exactly what this was like. Give him a victory or so he can put himself in the same category as a Shingo. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what this was all about. And again, like I mentioned, I feel like a lot of the booking decision and all the way down to the way the blocks kind of settled out. You can tell that this is the future. And you mentioned Evil earlier. I just want to say this: Evil is now a part of that back line of veterans that New Japan is going to start falling back on. So you might get a lot of more Evil victories over people like a Gabe Kidd while these younger names establish themselves. I know that sounds crazy to you, but like that's kind of how New Japan do it. They're gonna fall back on those people that they trust, and they trust Evil.
Yeah, that's true. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Naito. I'm surprised this wasn't the main event, as Yota Tsuji defeated David Finlay. But Jaxie, as Monty's been saying, this whole G1 is about the new stars. So having Tsuji and Finlay, they are, I wouldn't say maybe ready, but closest to on the New Japan roster.
Yeah, they're definitely gearing towards that way, aren't they? And you can kind of feel with the way that they've been booked, like especially at the beginning of the tournament, just like how much faith New Japan are willing to like kind of have with them. And I think they've been doing an excellent job with it. They've been really putting themselves over. I think if you go back to sort of like discussions of this time last year, and when we were talking about the hair versus hair match, there was still like a lot of like, discussion as to whether or not these sort of young wrestlers were sort of ready to take a bigger sort of stage when it came to sort of wrestling within New Japan, let alone the G1. And I think that the hair versus hair match really like solidified the confidence that young upcoming wrestlers need to move in, and it sometimes it helps with the right storyline. Like even when you look at the likes of like Ren Narita, like this time last year, I would never have thought that he would have been just sort of like as big within like the House of Torture and just even the storylines that he's carried. But again, it's like letting them all find their own paths. And this is what New Japan does excellent. They really allowed their wrestlers to start from the basics, and you watch them grow, you watch them progress, you watch them learn and grow into their own character. Like within New Japan Wrestling, that is. And that's the beauty of New Japan Wrestling, I would say, because you watch them from like, wearing no type of gear apart from black pants, just very basics, and you see them work their way up. You just said about like Bolton Oleg this year, like coming in for the first time in actual ring gear, and his own entrance music and things like that. Those things are earned through the respect of what you do in the ring. And I think this is something that I've grown to love and adore about New Japan Wrestling, is that you're not just actually, it's not all about bringing in the biggest names from different companies that have already made names for themselves. It's actually about creating those names as well. And you see a lot of that progression year in and year out when you're watching the G1. So again, it's like a graduation sort of thing. And I was very proud to see the likes of Bolton Oleg like sort of getting his own entrance music and his own gear. And I think, he came across really, really well in his standing. And this goes back to what you originally had asked me about sort of, was I worried or thinking there's no sort of like bigger names like joining it? But then like you've got these potential big names like David Finlay and that working their way up to those Okada statuses. And this is how you do that, Yeah,
I think without a doubt. And I think that's what we enjoy seeing it now, the kind of development of the wrestlers as well. So July 23rd, Takeshita defeated Jeff Cobb. Referee bumped when Cobb was superplexed, which is great. A Block, Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Callum Newman in the Battle of Britain. Yeah, see, Britain's flying a flag there. A Block, Shingo defeated Great Khan. A Block, Gabe Kidd defeated Shooter. Evil defeated Sanada, and Naito defeated Jake Lee. July 25th was B Block, with Rocky Goto defeating Oleg Bolton. Ren Narita defeated Jeff Cobb. El Fantasmo defeated Yotsuji. David Finlay defeated Hanare. And Yuri Uemura defeating Takeshita in possibly the best match so far at the G1. July 27th, Callum Newman defeated Shingo with one Oz cutter. Fuck off, mate. Sanada defeated Gabe Kidd. Shooter defeated Greater Khan. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Jake Lee. And Evil defeated Naito. The worst has happened. Evil moved to a perfect 4 on 0 when he beat it. Gina, you're a fan of Evil. I've tried to say Evil's been shit for years. And you've been saying, no, I don't mind Evil. And now he's beating the world champion and he's unbeaten in the G1. This is a horrible, horrible time. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not going to say I saw this coming because I didn't, but I had a feeling that Evil was going to rise up the ranks in some way. Not whether this being, of a face means or a heel means, I wouldn't have had a clue, but I did have a feeling that Evil was going to somehow just, creep up there. And yeah, he seemed to have done it. So fair play to him. I mean, I'm not saying like I like him like he's the best, but I don't hate him as a heel. I think he plays his heel character well, and I think he's intriguing to watch. So yeah, he's another one that I like to keep my eye on.
July 28th, B Block, Oleg Bolton defeated ELP. Jeff Cobb defeated Yuri Uemura. Takeshita defeated Hanare. Finlay defeated Ren Narita, and Goto
Can I just quickly say, because you just glossed over it really quickly, but I was actually very shocked to see Bolton Oleg pick up the win against the ELP. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest, so that was quite a shock, that match.
And then again, this is what's nice about it, because sometimes results pop up and you go, oh, fucking hell. But what I quite like about the G1 as well is usually these surprise results towards the end is what affects them getting through, which again is just really good booking on New Japan's part.
Yeah.
July 29th, A Block, Evil defeated Callum Newman. Fucking Evil. Greater Khan defeated Jake Lee. Shooter defeated Zack Sabre Jr. Gabe Kidd defeated Shingo. And Naito defeated Sanada. So, again, we're seeing a few bits and pieces there. July 31st, B Block, Tsuji defeated Bolton. Hanare defeated Yuri Uemura. Jeff Cobb defeated ELP. Ren Narita defeated Goto. And David Finlay defeated Takeshita. And then we moved into the month of August, which is the second half of this year's G1 tournament. At the point we're talking, A Block, Evil is top with 5-0. Zack Sabre Jr. is 4-1. On B Block, B Block's just fucking stupid, Monty. I'm not gonna. Everybody basically was tied at this point. Was there any shocks or surprises halfway through the G1?
I think to me, Evil winning is not really a shock. I know the internet was definitely not confused or worried, because a lot of the people on the internet, depending on where you're located, definitely was going for Zach. So to see Evil doing so well early made people think, okay, maybe they're not smart enough to bring it home, as you say. But no, again, I don't think anything too shocking other than, like you mentioned, a couple of Oleg victories, or just like how competitive that particular block was. But yeah, I don't want to say anything was too shocking, because I think New Japan has, like you mentioned, they're very tactful with their, especially the early making the tournament. It's like some people come in focused, and some people anybody could get caught in those early block matches, like you mentioned, James. They often come back to haunt them. So it wasn't too shocking for me, but I definitely know it was a couple of results where it's like, oh, okay, they going for it. The odd, like I think Shingo losing to Callum Newman was definitely one where I was like, oh, okay, they're not just giving him the chance to wrestle Shingo. They want you to believe he's credible to beat anybody, and that type of stuff is what creeps in your mind. Even if you're watching a match later where you're like, oh, Newman is not beating this insert name here, you know what I mean? But you got to keep it to your mind now. No, he pinned Shingo, he can beat anybody. So no, I think they're experts at that, at just kind of like painting it as anybody who gets hot could possibly be the one.
Yeah, without doubt. So August 3rd, A Block, Jake Lee defeated Callum Newman. Greater Khan defeated Evil. The undefeated streak is over, and our hero delivers again. Jaxie, is anybody in New Japan history since we've been watching has delivered more than a Great Khan, eh? He's finally beaten Evil.
Oh, honestly, I think I said this right from my very first G1, but I fucking love the Great Khan. Like he's just been such a fucking highlight, especially throughout this G1 as well. I'm sure that we'll go on to discuss sort of other stuff with Great Khan, but just everything he's doing, I love. I'm one of the biggest fans of the Great Khan. Just keep doing what you're doing, please.
Yeah. Down. Naito defeated Gabe Kidd. Sanada defeated Shooter. Shingo defeated Zack Sabre Jr. August 4th was B Block with Finlay defeating Oleg Bolton. And this is what we just talked about. Finlay suffered 2 straight losses to open up the tournament, and he picked up his 4th win in a row to continue the momentum. ELP defeated Yuri Uemura. Jeff Cobb defeated Henare in just meaty men slapping meat. You know, this is what we need sometimes, professional wrestling. Gosu defeated Takeshita. Tsuji defeated Ren Narita. August 6th, A Block, Great Khan defeated Callum Newman. Jake Lee defeated Gabe Kidd. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Evil. Naito defeated Shooter. And Sanada defeated Shingo. Monty, that was their first ever one-on-one match. How's that work out then? Like, they've been going forever, haven't they?
Well, you gotta think about it. They were in the same faction for a long time, you know, so that kind of kept them away from each other from as far as an adversarial point of view. And Shingo spent that an insanely amount of time in the junior division, which Sonata has never been in. So it's kind of weird when you think about that. But yeah, very, very. It's rare that you get first times or like first time in this current iteration of type of work. So. It's very rare that you get that in these G1s. Because like I mentioned, leaning on veterans and all of that. But you have plenty of first times in this one,
Yeah, without doubt. August 7th, B Block, Jeff Cobb defeated Oleg Bolton. Takeshita defeated ELP. Tsuji defeated Henare. And Ren Narita defeated Yuri Uemura. Hiroki Goto defeated David Finlay. Top of the table battle there. August 8th, A Block, Naito defeated Callum Newman. Newman is out. Record of 2-5 at that moment in time. Great Khan defeated Sanada. Jake Lee defeated Shooter Umino. Shooter looked fucked. And we know we talk about a back injury going into it, but he was just not ready. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Gabe Kidd. I mean, this was great, and the finish was awesome. Jaxie, I don't know if you managed to catch this, but seeing Gabe pass out, as you mentioned earlier about his kind of this new, tougher character, shows just how tough he is, you know?
No, I did. I watched this match, and it honestly felt like that was the only way to get him down. Like at that point, like his anger sometimes like actually can become uncontrollable. And I think it was the perfect way to end that match was like for Zack to put him to sleep.
Without doubt. And then we see Shingo defeating Evil. Fake Bushi tried to help, which confused me a little bit, but I'll go over it. Zack Sabre Jr.'s clinched first place and a bye to the semi-finals. And then August 10th, B Block, Oleg Bolton defeated Takeshita. I didn't like Callum on commentary, but this match was meaty. But again, Gina, we mentioned it. Someone like Oleg Bolton versus Takeshita might not be on the same level, but Bolton, I think, shown his worth, especially getting a victory.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to what Jax said about the, evolution of those kind of like, having to go through loads of tournaments and ways to build themselves up to become actual, branded and named for themselves. I think Oleg has definitely been one of them. And to go against Takeshita, who is a bit more well-known, especially being on the AEW roster as well, I think a match like this definitely highlights and shows the experience he's gained from just going through the New Japan process, So it was a good match between them both, and I think Takeshita definitely worked well with him.
Well, Ren Narita defeated Henare. I mean, for me, both matches were upsets, and the referee's lucky to be alive in this one. ELP defeated Goto. Finlay defeated Jeff Cobb. Yuri Uemura defeated Yota Tsuji. Looked like Yuri was maybe injured. And then August 12th, A Block, Gabe Kidd defeated Callum Newman. Match was meaningless. Zack Sabre defeated Sanada, which meant he finished top, and it's coming home. Shingo defeated Jake Lee. Shooter defeated Evil. And Great Khan defeated Naito. Our hero did it. Unbelievable stuff. So final G1 A block standings, Zack Sabre Jr. was top, and Great Khan got through, even though he was tied with Shingo. Was the tie-break, Monty? I think that's right. But how big a result is it Great Khan getting this victory?
I mean, he's always been like one or two big matches away, or one or two results going his way away, in my opinion. So I think it was a huge victory. And again, I think that's what they do masterfully when they're setting this tournament up. How to make those matches. And it's not always the match you assume, but how do you make those matches towards the end of the G1? You make them all a step better because you add these stakes to it, and I think that's kind of the masterfulness of the type of booking that you have towards the end of the G1. And the way you get that booking is the way you book the beginning or the middle part of the tournament. So it's nothing like the G1 because of matches like this and moments like this. But I think the Great Khan, like we mentioned, we know as far as popularity goes in Japan, particularly in Japan, he's really, really popular. But he's grown his name over the years. And it was one of the question marks I've had about New Japan, and we can probably talk about it even more if we later with other stuff with Okan. But I didn't really understand at the time, especially while this was going on, why he wasn't immediately put to the forefront as a guy who could be in those positions. Why they keep pulling back, and I think this is one of those moments where it felt like, okay, finally Okan is gonna get a little bit more to do, or a little bit more under his belt, and like this was one of those victories that could start something. Who knows what the next G1 or the next time he's in a big time tournament setting, eventually you have to start coming out on top in these big matches for anybody to believe you in the future to actually be more than just entertaining Great Khan. So I was very excited. That's what I'm saying. If you know what I mean. Like, I'm very excited that he was able to get that, because that's a big step when you in his position, because I feel like you run the risk of being just, oh, we know we can just do a KOPW segment, or we could just do what we've been doing with Okan and people will like it. Or you can actually give him that mobility and make him even better character.
Yeah, without doubt. And then August 14th last night at B Block, and RA defeated Goto. David Finlay defeated ELP. Finlay clinched the number one spot. Takeshita defeated Ren Narita, and Yota Tsuji defeated Jeff Cobb. But what it meant is Cobb, Narita, Tsuji, Takeshita all finished on 10 points, but Takeshita was 3-0 in tiebreakers. So they were the top two there. So, I mean, Jaxie, Takeshita getting through into the semi-finals of G1 is quite a big achievement for him, even though we know how good he is.
For sure. I mean, like, he's done AEW proud to, like, as a representation of the company itself, but like he really has outshone here, and I think he's really just continuously grown into the character that he's building within AEW, but just even bringing that over into that sort of arrogance that he had kind of helped him sort of pick up a couple of those wins that took him into the semi-finals, so or the quarterfinals, whichever one it was. It was just I think he had a very impressive performance, and I think if anything, he's just going to continuously get bigger over the next year. I'm really eager and excited to kind of continue to see his growth with everything that he's doing in AEW and New Japan.
Yeah, I think that. Now, and the other one as well, Gina, I want to ask you about David Finlay, because I think he kind of goes underneath the radar. A lot of people call him maybe like a Jay White ripoff, whatever it is. But again, he's getting along with his career and getting a few accomplishments now as well.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I think the whole Jay White ripoff just doesn't help that they're both kind of similar in looks, in terms of being, a white male, long, dark hair, that sort of thing. But he's really shown that his character is completely different to Jay White and really brought out his own character. And I like the fact that he acts the way he does, because in a way it's kind of like rebelling and showing that those who did doubt him in the beginning, look where he is now still, and he's still going forward with at the top, So I quite like him. I think he's grown into his own character, and I've never once really kind of put him and Jay White in the same kind of persona space.
Right, now we had the G1 climax A block playoff round with Shingo defeating Great Khan, and B block playoff with Tsuji defeating Takeshita. So it means Shingo will face Zack Sabre Jr., Tsuji taking on David Finlay, and that's what we got. But what was more amazing was the 4 people involved had never won the G1 before, and none of them had ever made it to the climax final in the past either. So we were breaking ground here. We saw Yota Tsuji defeated David Finlay, which again, Tsuji has had such a great year. And Monty, I know we've talked about him, getting into the finals here. Would he win it? Would he not? But after New Japan Cup and everything like this, he's the kind of the main one at the moment, isn't he?
I think, without a doubt, it's not just a popularity thing. I think at first, coming out, I think a lot of people projected Shoulder to be the most popular and the one who seemed to be the most ready. But Tsuji kind of came out of nowhere after his debut and just been off to the races with definitely seemed like the guy who seemed like he's more in position to be the leader of this new school, or at least definitely one of the main leaders. But again, I think this whole entire tournament showcased that. But Tsuji being here, earning it, and then performing the way he did, I also thought that it just bode well for at least having one of those guys in this conversation, because I think, again, whoever came up, whether it was a New Japan created 4 Musketeers or type of thing, or 3 Musketeers thing they tried to do, and the same thing, I don't. At the end of the day, that's a lot of pressure to try to put on new guys, and we've seen they've all kind of went in a completely different directions. But like you mentioned, James, I think the one who's closest to that guy who's already at that level, and again, I just don't think that this was the projections for New Japan or anybody, but it hasn't taken long. He has the look, and then every time you put him in the ring, including this match right here with Finlay, which is damn good, I think he's shown that he can be the guy sooner than later.
Without doubt. And then in the other one, the other semi-final, Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Shingo. And Zack has been on such a roll this year, which led to August 18th in the final match. And this was great between the two, but Zack Sabre Jr. managing to submit Tsuji and get the win. And after the match, Sabre broke from position and made his challenge for the World Heavyweight title for King of Pro Wrestling on October 14th. Again, I'm not really sure what happens this time of year, Monty, but a lot of people were surprised. I don't mind, because Zack won the G1 and it's coming home, So before I get your thoughts on that, Jaxie, first, just about the G1 in general. I mean, what were your thoughts on it this year compared to maybe others, and everything? Who stood out for you?
I think it was definitely exciting, I think this year more than any, I think there was a lot more intrigue as to who could win, because of the fact that there wasn't the sort of usual big names that were part of it. Like, the Will Ospreays, the Kenny Omegas, the John Moxleys, the Jay Whites, all of those names were taken out of it. So there was a lot more intrigue going into this. And I think that there were like quite a few people that stood out. For me, Shingo, the Great Okan, Tsuji, they all really stood out for me. I got to give it to Gabe Kidd, really stood out to me as well. Like, he just was so aggressive. Like, I couldn't just see this getting worse and worse, like a mad dog getting madder and madder, and just running with it. So knows what's going to happen with him. But I think that there are quite a few big names that I'm going to be intrigued to be watching them going into the next G1 next year and seeing whether or not they can make it that step further. Takeshita also really stood out for me throughout the G1, and I think he probably could go farther next year as well. Even Bolton Oleg, he did so well for sort of the progression. So it's exciting to see how well he'll do next year as well. Overall, though, with sort of the final 4, I wouldn't say I'm shocked out of the final 4, but what I would say is that I felt a certain sadness. I was really ultimately, but by the time it hit the final 4, I was really rooting for a Great Okan. So one day we might see that happen. You never know. But overall, I thought it was a really good turnout.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and again, one of the backstage comments as well, Zack Sabre Jr. said after winning that he did it for you, Gina. So I don't know what you think about that, or who who you thought stole the show in the G1, but you know.
You're such a shit stirrer, James. You're such a shit stirrer. I'll have you know that I actually speak to Zack Sabre Jr. in my DMs, and he told me that you're a knobhead.
Dickhead, more like, yeah, that would be right, yeah. No, but Gina, what were your thoughts? Who stood out for you? Because again, Takeshita and a lot of other young guys kind of shone through, and maybe this was a change in the guard that New Japan maybe needed.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, I do feel biased because obviously I watch AEW a lot. I know Takeshita more, so I do feel like I was always like leaning towards people that I'm more familiar with. But it was still really nice to again go through a G1 and see the elevation of some people from 2 G1s ago or 1 G1 ago. So it was still really nice and enjoyable to watch. But I definitely was like super happy for like Takeshita to be put up there.
Yeah, I think we're out. Monty, again, I mean, you've seen, I don't know how many G1s you have seen, my friend. But again, another one ticked off the list. What were your thoughts of this year's one? And, of course, Zack Sabre Jr. getting a win. Because, I know I'm a fan, but, humble American knows how good British wrestler is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just about that. I saw a lot of people. I think that's part of why him winning is a good thing. A lot of the hype from your countrymen and women, and just how it kind of really spoke to me, just how good he has been as far as an ambassador goes for New Japan around the world. Like even as again, Zach will show up on on AEW cards, he'll show up on Rare Pro cards, he shows up whenever you need him. He does the collision in America. So as much as I love seeing Zach in this spot, I think it's not just a this year type of deal. Let me say it that way. I think it's a multi-year. It's something that he's already earned, and it's just about time that the timing seemed to be right for the company and just seemed to be right in general. For New Japan to finally pull the trigger on something I think anybody who's been watching have already seen. I mean, he's done it with the New Japan Cup. New Japan Cup is kind of his original undefeated streak back in the day when he was more of a heelish character. When he won the New Japan Cup, that kind of set the tone for who he was. But he was never able to get quite over the hump. And I think anybody who's watched Zach throughout so far his entire run in New Japan, they can confidently say that they have watched him get big victories, but they have not necessarily watched him be able to get over that hump. Whether it's Okada in some of these spots, whether it's been Ospreay, Naito in the past, whoever it is, he's finally got over this hump. And I think this is 50% the job, or the goal was 50% complete here with this G1 victory. And it was just cool to see that New Japan trusted him enough, because again, in the ring he been earned it, but I think with his ambassadorship and just how much he loved representing New Japan, not Japanese pro wrestling, but representing New Japan, this is just one of those things that no matter how you feel about Zach, I think everybody knew it was a no-brainer, and it was kind of cool that some people had the fears, like, because I've seen a lot of the same complaints. You want New Japan to focus on the future where you have Tsuji. You can have Tsuji win it, and some people get what they want. But if you also want to reward a guy who deserves to kind of be in the driver's seat or be one of the main attractions of your promotion, then Zach winning was by far the right move.
Doubt. So let's catch up then. Since then, September 6th, and TJP teased the debut of a new member of United Empire, and it was Jacob Austin Young. Let's see how he gets on the September 7th, Shingo's 20th anniversary show. He lost him and Great Khan to Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. I'm sure it'll be fine. Shingo Bushi Yamato versus Los Ingobernables went to a 30-minute time limit draw, and after the main event, Naito agreed to defend the heavyweight title against Shingo in the future. September 8th, we saw Yota Tsuji versus Jeff Cobb for the World TV Championship. Again, meaty men slapping meat. This was a time limit draw with Ren Narita attacking after. We had September 9th, Hiromu Takahashi versus Hinari for the Never Openweight Championship. Hiromu stepping up, but Hinari has, I think, reached that next level. And Jaxie, we spoke about a lot of people. Hinari's another guy, especially since he's got that tattoo on his fucking face. And since what we saw in February in the War in the Cage, is a different type of person now.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like he's ever since getting that tattoo, it's almost like his persona has kind of completely changed. He's become more animalistic. That's the best way to kind of describe like the change in him, more aggressive. And yeah, just overall, like, can kind of come across quite frightening, I think. That tattoo definitely gives off so much more of a different impression now,
Yeah, it really is a different level. September 11th, we see Taiji Yamamoto versus Doki for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Doki getting the win there. It's good stuff from two proper juniors. September 14th. Monty, can you explain this to me? We got a 6-man tag team championship match. The faces were accompanied to the ring by two demons. Literal demons, it looked like. Again, this is why I love New Japan. What the fuck was this about? House Torture destroyed him.
The way I've seen this explained, the way it was kind of like some of those days that you just won't get anywhere else. And I mean it from the sense of other companies care that there's cameras here and people around the world are watching. Like, this is one of those matches that just felt really for that live audience and just for people to kind of get a kick out of something over there and have a good time. You know what I mean? That's just what the match felt like to me. It just felt like a good time. And I think if we being honest, that this is what makes New Japan different. Like, I'm not gonna say it was bad. It was like typical House of Torture-ness, but it was just so unique to where it's like, yep, I'm watching New Japan. I'm watching Japanese wrestling right now because only them would do something that probably looked completely nonsensical to can you imagine? I know you don't watch New Japan this way, but if you're just watching this live and you had somebody walk in and they're like, what the hell is this? This is the definition of what the hell is this? Like, you got to explain so much for people to understand that it's wrestling and their House of Torture and the whole demon element. That's why I'm not even going to try to explain it. I'm just going to give you the thought process behind it. And New Japan does that a lot. But sometimes they give you a match that you can tell is just for those people in that arena.
Got it. We got Destruction in Kobe on September 29th. And again, we saw Goto and Gabe Kidd going at it. They restarted with a no DQ rule as well, with Goto getting a win. TMDK, we saw a new mystery part. I'm not going to... Who's the newest member of TMDK, Monty? Then I'll just copy you how you say it.
Hold on, what show are we at?
Is it Rio Oiwa? Is that the
right
one?
Oiwa. Yeah.
No,
Rio.
I'm alright with the other name.
Oiwa.
Yeah, sorry.
Oiwa. No. Yeah, I'm not the best with his first name. Oiwa is what I got though.
Oiwa.
That's the one
yeah.
Right.
If you remember, he was one of the second guys that Zach brought out to impersonate him one time, and the second time he fooled even when he had two versions of him out there. So yeah, this is a nice throwback to Young Lions that Zach kind of took under his wing. The same thing with the Ichiban Sweet Boy.
But this is the one with the mullet, with the blonde, right?
I believe so. I think that's a mullet.
I think it's a mullet.
I mean, I would call it a mullet.
Yeah. So Fujita and
Oh,
Oiwa used to team together as Young Lions, so it was also a kind of nod to that. But Zach took them both under his wing. So yes, mullet, I believe.
Never Openweight 6-man Tag Team Championship, Boku no League, Tanahashi and Toru Yano defeated House of Torture. Lots of shenanigans going on in there. Junior Heavyweight Championship, Doki defeated Yoshinobu Kanemaru. During the match, Sho ran out to help Kanemaru with some House of Torture style shenanigans. Following the match, Sho grabbed the title and threatened to destroy it if he did not get granted a title match. Doki agreed, and Sho beat up Doki. Never Openweight Championship, Shingo defeated Hinari via Last of the Dragon. Jaxie, what a fucking match. And these two men together, they must not face each other again, as I'm pretty sure they will kill each other.
I mean, honestly, I feel at one point that was what they were both determined to do. I was like, actually, are they trying to kill one another, or do they realize this is just a wrestling match? The ref was having to work so hard to kind of like keep both men alive. They both went hard. They both went at it. It was a really great match. I'd seen this kind of level of aggression from Hinari before, but I must admit, like, this was like a more aggressive side of Shingo that I didn't expect. You know?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, he just brings it. You know, and this is the thing, and it's just it is fantastic to watch. I mean, what a fucking match. We then had Global Heavyweight Championship. David Finlay defeated Yoshihashi via Overkill. Hiroki Goto, his tag team partner, confronted David Finlay, teasing a future match.
Oh, James,
between the two.
Can I just say, this was one of my favorite matches. Right, I don't know why, but like, so I was watching sort of all of the like sort of previously, and I know that Yoshihashi kind of did an Adam Cole, like came for a run out to the ring to save and injured himself and stuff. But like this match between him and David Finlay, I didn't actually expect to like enjoy it as much as I did, but I thought like it went really well. And then as you were just mentioning, like Goto comes out after. I just really enjoyed this match. I just needed to say that because I thought this was a really good showcase for Yoshihashi.
No, perfect. And then the World Heavyweight Championship, Naito defeating Great-O-Khan. And following the match, Shingo came out and issued a challenge, while Iowa came out and issued a challenge to Shingo. Are you crazy, young man? But again, it's good stuff. But Gina, I mean, we know Naito's reign is coming to an end. Should they just given it to the Great-O-Khan and just made the whole world happy with this?
Hello?
Well, she might.
Sorry, was that directed at me?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the question? I didn't know that was coming at me.
Should Great-O-Khan just beat Naito and everything would be in the right of the world with Great-O-Khan our champion?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love both of these guys. I love Naito. I love Great-O-Khan. But O-Khan, I have a certain love towards him. And like my backing in the match was behind him for sure. I felt for him.
I
felt myself drawn to that as well, like drawn to like cheering him on. I couldn't help it.
I will catch up with Capital Collision, October 6th. Was there anything, Monty, from Yuji Nagata's Blue Justice? What is it? Full team show? I don't think there was anything there really. The main event. Watch me butcher Japanese legends' names. Ready? Jun Akiyama and Yuji Nagata defeated Atsuri Kaduji and Go Shizaki. How good was that, Monty?
It was good until you got the Atsushi, but okay. You did good. Besides Atsushi Kotoji.
I've heard of Yuji Nagata. That is the one. October 14th, King of
Jun
Pro
Akiyama
Wrestling.
was on AEW. You don't remember that? You don't remember them forcing Akiyama? You don't remember that fact. Go ahead.
I barely remember.
Your pronunciation got much better though, James.
Oh,
yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, stop it. October 14th, King of Pro Wrestling 2024. Hiromu Takahashi defeated Mystico. Whose idea was the fucking air horns? All right, air horns in a wrestling event does not work. Please put more.
Oh my gosh, that was really frustrating. That annoyed me a lot during the match. I was like, can we shut up now? Like, after a while, I was really bored. I was like, are you guys not bored pressing it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, after a while, just like, come on, guys. Anyway, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Title Match, Intergalactic Jet Setters Kevin Knight and Kushida defeated Bullet Club War Dogs Clark Connors and Driller Maloney. The War Dogs lost in their fourth defense. The Jet Setters are the 76th Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, or Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, as it was. But again, Monty, I don't know about you, but this just felt like the War Dogs have been pretty dominant, and it gives them something to do. Would that be fair? I mean,
Yeah.
great for Knight and Kushida. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But this is definitely more so about trying to add something to that division because, like you said, it's been dominated by the War Dogs, and again, great moment. I thought it was a really good match, but I do believe, like you said, it's more so of a can we shake it up and make this a little bit more interesting. At least from that perspective. But again, there's nothing wrong with it though. I think we both think highly of Knight and Kushida, so it makes sense. But this just felt like we need to shake up this division, make it a little bit more interesting.
TMDK, Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste defeated Bullet Club, Rogue Army, Bad Luck Fale, and Caveman Ugg. This was the debut of Caveman Ugg. After the match, Great Khan and Hurry challenged TMDK for the tag titles, which was accepted. Never openweight title, Shingo defeated Iowa. I do like these veteran versus young lion matches, as we've seen. Iowa looked good, but Shingo should be maybe doing bigger and better things. You could argue that. World Television title, three-way match. Ren Narita defeated Jeff Cobb and Yota Tsuji. I mean, I know it was a push-up board and all this lot, but Jaxie, we should not be living in a world where Ren Narita defeats Jeff Cobb and Yota Tsuji.
That was such a major upset, wasn't it? I mean, I think that this actually was such a great triple threat as well, but this came out of nowhere for me, and I'm not going to lie. I feel like it was an upset win. I was not expecting Ren to be the one to come out on top of this match, and he definitely just capitalized, you know? But I felt like really mad at this outcome. I was like, no, I just feel like they got cheated. Anyone but Ren, you know? But like this is what New Japan do. They throw in these curveballs and this is where it works, you know, where a big upset win works, you know? Someone like Ren Narita can really continue to capitalize off of just like his shady tactics and the way that like he's doing things. He's really coming into his own. And I think this match really went together well because of the upset win.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hiroshi Tanahashi's 25th anniversary celebration. ELP, Tanahashi and Shooter defeated House of Torture. But what was more interesting, I don't know if it happened on this show or just afterwards, but Monty, Hiroshi Tanahashi, you've mentioned to us, he is the John Cena of like New Japan, and we've seen just how good he is. But much like John Cena, he did have quite a big announcement as well.
Yeah, this coming Wrestle Kingdom. I'm not sure. I haven't had it clarified whether or not he's gonna continue to do stuff in the ring off and on post this, or this is complete. But yeah, he's calling it quits, man. He's gonna retire. He's gonna finally, I guess devote most of his focus on being the president. I think that if knowing that's true, kind of makes me feel like getting that title was more strategic because he knew that he was not going to be in the ring much longer. And I also think that Tanahashi, a lot of stuff that went into this too, that kind of reminds me of the sentiment that he had about Okada leaving and how he wished he could have got Okada in more, matches against the new blood because he knew that he wasn't going to be that guy in the locker room as consistent. He's still going to be around. Like he loves it. He's always helping train at the dojo. I would seriously doubt if he's not around, but I do believe that this is more one of those situations where it's like he's stepping back. He's going to let the new blood truly get the reins, and it's going to be a very interesting time because, like I mentioned, how interesting New Japan would be is transitioning without an Okada, but now having a future or potential future where both of those staples and guys like that will no longer be around regularly, I think it's very interesting. It's just gonna be cool to see because it can go multiple ways. But I am interested to see that now, just how much of him being a president is figurehead stuff, and how much of it now we're gonna start seeing different things. I'm already hearing that his move being as president has improved the this has proved the it has already improved the relationship between AEW and New Japan. So it'd be interesting to see where else things change and improve and stuff like that with him being the presidential force and leaving the ring to the young guys. It's like you mentioned, it's kind of funny how John Cena's kind of doing his last run next year, and I'm not sure up until next, coming up with the Netflix deal, but also having Tanahashi calling it quits. It's just going to be really interesting, man, because like I mentioned, I don't make that comparison lightly. I really do believe that, like I mentioned in the past, Tanahashi saved this company. New Japan still being here has a lot to do with his run on top as a superstar. So it's going to be really interesting to see what changes now and what is it going to be like with him now basically full-time president, So it's just going to be really interesting, man. Different time for sure for New Japan, and we'll see. They've been adjusting through Okada's absence. So where do we go now? And who's gonna step up on this roster? Is it gonna be behind the leadership of the Zacks, or is it gonna be other talent also involved? Some other than the other newer faces, if you know what I mean. We'll see which one will be the one stepping up.
I wonder if Tanahashi would just get like a buzz cut and start doing like press conferences as well. That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it?
No, he's still gonna have that hair laid. He's still gonna. It will never change. Tanahashi will never give up the gimmick. So yeah, he's gonna be himself.
Well, we got the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Title match. Doki defeated Sho. This is a 14-second win after the shenanigans that happened. We see Kanemaru jump Doki before Master Wato to return to his knee injury to make the save. Wato then challenged Doki to a match. Doki, which will happen at Power Struggle on November 4th. Global Heavyweight Title match. David Finlay defeated Hiroki Goto. And Jaxie, if you were a fan of the Yoshihashi match, watching Finlay mocking Goto's crying daughter to huge boos must have done something quite nice as
gosh, yes. That was a really hard watch, to be honest. That was really sad. Like, I think that was worse than when Shane McMahon's kids were there for sure. And like, but like again, this is just something else that is just kind of continuously showing like the growth of and cruelty that is David Finlay. Like he had no remorse whatsoever and just went as hard as physically possible.
I think without a doubt. And then the main event, IWGP World Heavyweight Title, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tetsuya Naito. We see two Zack drivers, but they got kicked out of one in a defiant gesture. But a third Zack driver with legs crossed scored Sabre the win and the title. We're going to talk about this. Yes, it's great that Zack Sabre Jr. is your new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. But I even liked his comments afterwards saying, in this matchup, Naito wasn't going to submit. So he knew he had to hit like an impact move for a pin. And Gina, we've spoken about in wrestling, stuff not making sense. And this makes perfect sense in a wrestling world. Zack going, he's not going to tap out. He's been through too much. I need to put him away with the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, definitely. This match went hard, and I'm not going to say I knew he was going to win this match because it was still touch and go, but like honestly, he wasn't going to go with a he was going to need to go with a pin. He wasn't going to need to go by tapping, But again, for me, even though you've created this beef between me and Zack, I personally felt like he did it really well. I thought he kind of he kind of like gave me not like Moxley vibes, but just like the drives that he put into this match. Like I definitely feel like he elevated himself to be on a level that he could go toe to toe with Naito and win. So yeah, I mean I'll give him props for this match, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, after the match, Snelder came out looking good in his cream-coloured suit, saying he wants to be Zack's first title defense at Royal Quest on the 20th. Then we got Shooter Umino making a challenge to Booze from the Sumo Hall, which again blew my mind because, I mean, Monty, is that just a case, and we're going to see a little bit more, of him just not being worth that spot yet, or is it, what's behind the booing?
He's kind of been hit with a situation where he's a guy who have been given a lot. If you just look at the way he's been booked, the situations he's been put in, and I don't think some of the faithful, at least from my understanding, listening to what because I do have connections to people who talk about the fandom on the Japanese side of the game. It's like I was pointing out, like you mentioned earlier, Okan. Okan winning would have definitely been a great moment, but Naito puts butts in the seats at a rate that even in a rate without Okada, it's been shocking that most of these shows are doing pretty good numbers based on, and his merch is also doing good numbers. So it's one of those situations from that point of view, and I think that's kind of goes into it with Shota Umino, a guy who's been he's been given opportunities, he's been in these spotlights, he said all of the right things, he's gonna lead New Japan into the future. But if you go to the wins column, if you go to the fact who was in the Final Four that we talked about earlier that represents his class, James, you know what I mean? Like it's guys like Tsuji. You mentioned where Ren, even though he may not seem like he deserved that title, Ren Narita has become champion twice. And what has Shota Umino has done? He has not won. He has not put himself in that position. He may be one of the best off reputation or off projection because we see the potential, but he hasn't earned that right with the fans, and it's kind of reminding me. It's very funny. I don't know. I doubt it's the same thing, but I always talk about Naito. Tetsuya Naito came into the character that you guys see, the nonchalant, that guy. He became that guy after coming to New Japan, saying he was going to take the company from Tanahashi and lead the future. He basically was in this same mold, and a similar thing happened to him. Only difference is he won the entire G1, and they denied Naito and still booed and preferred to have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Tanahashi instead of having Naito versus Okada. You know what I mean? So it was very, 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 very interesting. The parallels, in my opinion, in the way that the company seems to be behind what Shota Umino is and what he's become. But the crowd is not necessarily there yet. And I think Naito had to leave. He had to go to Mexico, and he came back with Lij and a completely different swagger, and that's how he was able to take off and become the guy he is. But Shota Umino right now, as great as I think all of us think he is and can see he will be, I think we all have to be honest that right now he has lacked. He has not become what you can tell everybody believe he has the potential to be. And some people think they're trying to make him where they're trying to push him there when he's not there yet, like you mentioned. Right?
Well, this was interesting. I mean, he beat both Sabre and Shingo in the G1, but like I said, the crowd don't really care. So it's good that they actually feel like that, And again, the match between Naito and Zack was excellent. And I don't think I've seen this many women in a crowd before, because Zack worked every bit of the arena. And he was working it. I mean, obviously I love Zack, but Naito was one of the first talents I took a huge liking to. So, Monty, just a couple of questions to help us out here. Was this Naito's last run? His last main run, and what is Zack's ceiling as champion now? I know we're going to unpack a couple of bits.
Okay, so Naito's last run is interesting. It was a couple times towards the end of Tanahashi's run where I was like around 18, where I'm like, he's obviously slowing down. Will I ever will they ever do that? And it's one of those things that when it happens in New Japan, it's not one of those. It's not a swift thing. It's like one of those things where they slowly start to fall down the card, and different things start to be. You start to notice that, oh, okay, he's fighting for the never open. Tanahashi won the never open weight title. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy you would associate with the world title, but you start seeing him doing different things, and I think that's gonna be the true sign. So far, I still feel like his popularity, his merch, and all of that, I feel like they're gonna ride that name. So I do think he has the potential to be back on top. You know what I mean? But I think he's definitely closer to that last run. If he never won the world title again, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's one thing I can definitely be honest. I think he has carried this company through some tough periods. I mean, think about when he finally got over the hump and became world champion. Like, on 2 times over, it was either he had a pandemic. He was the champion for the first time. He finally got on top of the mountain. A freaking global pandemic happened, and then this time he gets on top of the mountain, and then you have Okada leaving, and you have a lot of people turning away or not really worried about New Japan because they feel like the quality was going to dissipate when you lose the talent they've lost. Ospreay leaving too, of course. But I think shows like this one, and just in general, they've restored that feeling, in my opinion, of some really good times. And now I think it's time to see if they can do that without a guy on top that they know is going to sell out these arenas. Because people think it's just about the dome, because the dome is the one that they do the biggest number, but it's these random shows in a random gymnasium in the middle of the summer on the G1 that they're trying to still sell out. And that's what they were doing with Naito, even if, some people may not have liked his performances. But I would never count him out because of his popularity. But I wouldn't mind it being his last time, and now it's time to focus on Tsuji, or now it's time to give Shingo another chance at it, because I feel like they are probably closer to the championship than maybe Naito might be right now, and that's saying a lot. But your question about Zach, not to continue to be so long-winded, but Zach his ceiling is as far as they want to take it. Like I said, I feel like he does a great job because he's so visible. He's gonna help the AEW relationship, like the big show that they're doing coming up in January. But even whatever they decide to do next year, you're gonna it's just a whole lot simpler to just book Zack Sabre Jr. or some of the stuff that he's involved with than it ever was with Naito. The one thing I love the most about Naito might not be the best for the relationship between AEW and New Japan. Naito's a New Japan guy. That's all he cares about. That's all he's ever wanted to be on top of. But when you have somebody like Zack, you have the flexibility to not only improve your relationship, but also improve your popularity. Because you mentioned, James, he is great at what he does, but it's not just the fact that he has a fan base of people who appreciate him in Japan that's steadily growing. He has a fan base around the world that seems to be behind him, and I think depending on how big they can ride that wave in Japan, I think they have the potential to do some special things.
Without doubt, excellent answers there. October 20th, Royal Quest 4. I will catch up on, but I did watch Sanada versus Zack Sabre Jr. It was great to see Zack get a homecoming. The quality of production made this feel homemade at times, but the crowd was great. And the final show we're going to cover now is November 4th, Power Struggle in Osaka, Japan. Few undercard matches to see if anything's really worthwhile. Los Ingobernables defeated the never openweight 6-man tag team champion Toriano, Dragon Dia, Taguchi, and Honma. No, it doesn't really matter. House Torture, Rennerito and Evil defeated never openweight 6-man tag team champions Hiroshi Tanahashi and Boltin Oleg. Please don't put the 6-man titles on House of Torture. Shooter Umino defeats Sanada versus the Death Rider. We talked about this, Jaxie, as well, changing of the guard. And as Monty's saying now, it seems with Shooter, they're trying to position us and go, look, Sanada was the guy, he was a champion at the start of the year, and now Shooter's getting a victory over him. And this is the kind of, Sanada might be coming down a little bit, Shooter's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's very sporadic in terms of like the sudden change, but it's going to bring out different personalities within these wrestlers, and this is what we're starting to see within both Sanada and Shota. It leaves you a bit intrigued as to what's the going to be that final stepping point where they kind of solidify what's happening, because there's a lot of mystery that I think that came out of this match as to where they go from here, where each of the wrestlers go from here. And you're just kind of stuck at a point where it's like, well, what do they do now? You know?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, it'll be interesting to see. We saw Kenny Omega address the crowd. He said he would love to return at New Japan and AEW's Wrestle Dynasty on January 5th against a young talent. He was confronted backstage by Gabe Kidd. The way they filmed it as well, I mean, we were even asking if it was real or not. But
For
Kenny
real.
It honestly is unbelievable. But the more interesting thing, it's great to see this, but Gina, I want to ask you this, because I know we obviously talk about AEW and stuff like this, but Kenny has said the reason he came back to New Japan is AEW doesn't need him. Is that right? Or is Kenny just showing who he loves more?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest, because I do feel that there is always going to be a first love when it comes to New Japan and Kenny. I do feel like he has, he loves not even just the wrestling culture there. He loves the culture itself of Japan so much. And for me, I do feel like New Japan is his number one, and so it should be, if that's how you feel. But in terms of AEW needing Kenny, of course it does. But in terms of with the stars that AEW has currently and them trying to elevate them, I think it would be better for Kenny to be in New Japan right now, and save bringing him to AEW just yet. They've still got people that they've just brought across that they're still trying to elevate, and I think that they still need that time to elevate those people more before bringing Kenny back, because again, I'm not gonna lie, all of the focus will be back on Kenny once he's there. People will be saying Ricochet who, Will Ospreay who, Jay White who, because everyone will just be like Kenny, Kenny, Kenny. So in a way, I think it's actually a clever thing to, maybe if he is going to start wrestling again, to do it in his first love and do it in New Japan, and save his time on AEW for when more stars have elevated themselves, so there's fresh talent on the not same wavelength, but at least up there to be able to challenge Kenny,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, it's interesting to see Kenny doing this. Up next, IWGP Tag Team title match. United Empire, Great Khan and Hare defeated TMDK, Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols. I mean, I'm happy but sad. Mikey bled hard way when he headbutted Henare. But, I mean, why would you fucking do it? But Henare deserves gold after his 2024, and our hero is double champion. I mean, Jaxie, I don't know about you, but Great Khan, we talk about what he deserves. Double champ at the end of the year is pretty good.
I mean, yeah. I when I saw the outcome of this match, I definitely said to myself, well, he didn't win the G1, but do you know what? Make him double champ. Why not? This actually really pleased me. Not only are you right in saying that, I think that Henare deserves a bit of gold with the sort of run he's had currently this year. But I mean, if anything came out of the G1, it was an even bigger love for the Great Khan. So just put everything on him, and I would actually be happy. So yeah, make him double champ. I'm happy with that. I mean, I was a bit gutted though for TMDK. When they took the loss, I actually felt that loss for them. They looked really devastated. I did feel for them.
I know, they worked so hard.
Yeah, Henare, what are you going to do when you got the likes of Henare and Great Khan against you? No offense, but I would have let down and just let them pin me. I wouldn't have wanted to go against them anyway. So, I mean, TMDK looked great against them. It just, this time it didn't go their way, sadly.
It was a mixed night for TMDK because, like I said, lost tag titles, but the Super Junior Tag League final, the Ichiban Sweet Boys defeated Catch 2-2. This was a fantastic match. We then see Kevin Knight Kushida say they will see both teams at Wrestle Kingdom, War Dogs attacked, which, if we get forward at Wrestle Kingdom, this is fucking brilliant. But Monty, as we've mentioned, TMDK all over the place, but winner of the Super Junior Tag League final, And I will be covering this on another podcast I'll speak about later as well. But Monty, what were your thoughts on TMDK's night as a tag team?
I thought it was a fantastic way to kind of just not necessarily hand them the reins, but just kind of finally let them get over the hump in a lot of ways. But I think this was just really cool. I mean, think about kind of what I told you about the history of the Ichiban Sweet Boys and how, Zach took a liking to them when they were young boys, and to also kind of look at where they are now, and just also where Zach is now. Because again, I talk about pulling the plug or having a chance to make something special happen. They finally went ahead and gave Zach the reins recently. So to kind of do a similar thing, but also just one of those things that bodes well for their futures too, because I think at the end of the day with a young line, you can always see a bright future, or you see the potential for a bright future. They got to go out there and make things happen. I think this is a great first step. And it was a great tournament overall, and to see them come out on top, kind of made it worth it, because I kind of mentioned earlier that the Super Junior division, especially from a tag perspective, it's time the War Dogs and Catch 22. I think beating Catch 22, established team, also makes it better. But like from my point of view, I think it was about time that they did something like that, and I thought it was a beautiful moment. And like you mentioned, to kind of go hand in hand with what Zach has been able to do, it really makes you think positively about the future, in my opinion, of TMDK and where they could be all together going forward. Because right now they're on top of the world.
Well, there's one good, the one thing about New Japan, which they've always done, is build these stables and the groups. And it only felt, a few months ago how important United Empire was and how big they were. And now we feel the same with like TMDK, which is really good stuff. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, Doki defeated Master Wato. El Desperado confronted Doki afterwards, setting up a match at Wrestle Kingdom. Monty, I don't know, man. I mean, can it end in a draw and that make me happy? I don't know.
I'm expecting this one to get a little bit vicious, just based on Desperado's past and even Doki's past. Like, it'll be real interesting to me just how far they try to go with this one, yeah, man, I think this is going to be a really good one, just from my point of view, because when you think about the talent, involved, Desperado is the guy, so it's hard to pick against him. And then Doki has earned this spot.
Such a run. Yeah, what a run
he's had such a run. He earned it. So it'll be interesting to see. I want to know what's going to be different. I do worry for Doki, because Desperado is like he's been in death matches. We've seen him go that extra limit. Is that going to be the difference, in my opinion? Like, is it going to be the difference between who comes out on top? But I think when you're looking for a match, and for the moment, you do want the guy that's on top versus one of the guys. And I'm with you, James. I don't know who's going to win. I actually believe Desperado probably is the safe bet. But like you said, Doki deserves it, and he's earned it. So I can't wait to see how that turns out, to be honest.
Yeah, without doubt. IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship, David Finlay defeated Tai Chi, with Sanada turning against Tai Chi during the bout. Finlay agreed to defend the Global Heavyweight title against Yosuji at Wrestle Kingdom. Jaxie, for me, this was a bit of a shock, because Sanada, as we mentioned, heavyweight champion, but maybe a bit bland. I didn't think Bullet Club would be the right fit for him, but again, maybe it works. And Finlay versus Suji at Wrestle Kingdom, two young guns for the championship.
I mean, I didn't see this coming. I do, once I actually have my say. But no, Monty, you come in with a little laugh like this. I'm going to say my piece, but then I actually do want to pass this on to Monty, because I do want to know, as a veteran and someone who was a huge fan of Sanada, whether or not he saw this come in, because obviously I've not been keeping up to date, but have always known, Sanada to be in this. They're all in the same team. They're all in, what's it called? The LI
Los Ingobernables.
This, right? So this was a complete and utter shock. This was a complete and utter betrayal, like from my point of view, because I'm not watching consistently, and all I've known is him as part of that group and being a unit. So this is a complete shock. Do I actually think that he looks like he suits Bullet Club? No, I do not. I feel completely betrayed by Sonata, just like everyone else. I did not see him. He literally had no remorse, James. He had no remorse in the ring. And even when Doki came out, like he just went straight for him as well, like no hesitation. Like you could tell Sonata had been thinking about this change, this switch. Look at Monty, am I right? He's been thinking about this for a while, and he had zero F's to give the moment that he executed this plan.
The only reason why this didn't shock me is because you got to think about his career this year. I mean, you got to think about the way Wrestle Kingdom last year was, and just what Sonata did last year and how far he came. He finally thought like he was given a spot, and it was like they showed him that he was better, not better, but finally on that level that Okada said he should be, which is on the level of Okada, meaning he should be leading the company. And when they started just 4 or 5 guys, when they did that, that was his shot. And then, the crowd wanted Naito to beat him so bad. All right, so that's a setback. And then you just think about this entire year, just if you just put it all into his perspective, he's been feuding within his group, low key. If you really think about like a lot of the signaling that's been going on pretty much since they added, what's his name from Impact James? I'm messing up names now.
Uemura.
Since Uemura debuted, it's been a little tension there. You know what I mean?
There's been tensions, because I started to notice that tension sort of very early on.
Right. And as close as he and Tai Chi may have been, at the end of the day, I think Sonata showed when he left Naito the first time, he don't want to be, not necessarily second fiddle, but he don't.
Well, he just didn't want to be a team player anymore. I think at this point he's chosen he actually just wants to be about himself. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And just 5 guys has become leaderless, and I think it's very interesting that he made that turn, but he didn't go to Evil. It's like he did it, but he didn't go to Evil. I think that was the most shocking part, because him going with Evil would actually have you got some history, but he basically did the same thing he did with Evil. And I just think that Evil did, but I think honestly, I'm with you, Jay. I wasn't sure about the fit because the War Dogs, have a more malicious style to them, and that's not really what Sonata.
I want to hear Sonata swearing promo next week.
Like Sonata
just super angry all the time, whereas Sonata just comes across as a calm, collected, quiet,
and he
angry,
always has, and that's what I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see does his demeanor change now that he's around these young, angry.
I mean, to be honest, I'm finding it very strange to actually think the likes of Gabe Kidd and freaking Sonata on the same sort of side.
It's shocking because they're polar.
Sonata has changed his look low as well, Monty, hasn't he? He has.
Yeah, he's gone back blonde.
Gone back, yeah.
Oh, he's gone back blonde.
Yes, he's
back.
Has he?
Oh my God, no, he looks way sexier blonde.
Grow his pirate beard back. I think this is a sign that he's going back to being depressed. But
is he going to be the lion again? Is he going to be like a lion again for the Lions thing?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We'll see. But he's definitely trying to. Yeah, he's trying to erase who he was as just 5 guys. But again, I feel like it's symbolism there. He was a guy that he thought was chosen. This is a guy who he thought was chosen to be in the Tanahashi or in the leading babyface spot. And if you just look at the results all year, it has been reinforced. He's not going to get his world title back, and he's not going to be in that spot. We want Zach.
I suppose, I suppose you could actually
make sense then on that front, doesn't it?
Yeah. I suppose you could also look at it in a way it's very similar to it's similar to what Shoto Umino is going through, what you said earlier, Monty, about Shoto, where they've given him chances and it's not worked or picked up or taken off. you know, whereas Sonata's actually done something about that and gone, do you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm not waiting for anyone else to actually help me get into that move. I'm just going to do whatever it needs to get me there, you know? So he's resorted to sort of a more aggressive approach and outlook on how he's going to take things going forward in New Japan. Right now, I feel like the difference between him and Shota Umino is that Shota is still at this point, like, I still find that with every loss he takes, it's like he not only beats himself up, but he feels sorry for himself. And rather than actually trying to like do something about it or make some sort of change, he's kind of going in with the same sort of attitude every single time, like kind of like a whole, you know, just go in there and do your best type of attitude. Whereas like, you know, not saying that it's right that with what Sonata has done, because he's clearly gone down the heel route now. But what I'm saying is, by taking a drastic change like that, like Sonata has currently taken his current career into his own hands, whereas Shota right now is still sitting comfortably by and being like, okay, well, maybe next week's booking will work in my favor. You know, like something needs to switch up. Something needs to switch up with Shota now. He can't just keep feeling sorry for himself. You have to actually do something about that.
Well,
I think it's really interesting what they decide to do, because you can tell the story of him overcoming that and kind of staying in his ways, or you can try to tell the story like they've done in the past and give him a new, you know, character wrinkle to make him more interesting. But like you mentioned, James, this is one of those things that New Japan love to do every now and then with some of their established guys. And Sonata has been chosen to do it twice now in like 3 years. So let's just hope it works, because like that's the one thing I'm worried about. It's like, you know, it's just like a Big Show disease. You know, you switch up, you do that enough times. Now it's like nobody cares about whatever you're doing, because you're gonna jump ship anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how the future of this type of union, because that's the one thing I'm interested about.
Right, so move on to main event, World Heavyweight title. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Shingo. I mean, I love Shingo, and this was a great match between the two. Zack Sabre Jr. called out Shooter Umino, agreed to give him a shot at the title in the future. As Zack was celebrating, he was attacked by Ricochet. Ricochet challenged Zack for the Wrestle Dynasty show on January 5th. Shooter made the save for Zack, who shoved him. Shooter laid out Zack with the Death Rider. So, Gina, I'll ask you this question. Ricochet in New Japan, and again, it's nice to see him back, because obviously, you know, history in Japan. But is he a viable contender to Zack Sabre Jr.'s world title, even if he is champion after Wrestle Kingdom?
Okay, so one quick question: has Ricochet been in New Japan before? Is this his first time?
No, he's been in New Japan. He's in Dragon Gate. He was a great Super Junior heavyweight in New Japan. So they're familiar with Ricochet. Very familiar.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't know when he turned up whether this was like his first turning up or not. So, well, for me, obviously, it was his first turning up in New Japan. So that's how I took it. So I was about to say I was pleasantly surprised to see him, and like in a good way. And I was quite excited at the thought of a match between Zack and Ricochet. The only thing is, when I think, can Ricochet beat Zack? They're both two different types of wrestlers, you know. And if I do put that like them side to side, I think Ricochet's wicked and he's elevating himself well. But I don't really see him beating Zack at this point. But we'll see how it goes. They could, like, you know, promote it well enough that I might start to doubt that. But for me, I feel like Zack would get the win. And then I thought I was a little confused with the Shota thing, because he came for the save, but then him and Zack started fighting too. So then I thought, okay, it's going to be a triple threat then between the three of them, maybe. So that I don't mind either. I think all three of them are great, but I do feel like Zack will still come out on top. Those are just my feelings for like this moment in time.
Yeah, no, it was a bit confusing because Shooter's there, but if Ricochet just announced a match, Shooter's like, well, what about my match? You know, we assume it's going to be Wrestle Kingdom, you know, for the title. I mean, like you said, Gina, the question is Shooter the man for that? And Monty, my question for you is will Zack get his dream of main event in the Tokyo Dome in either of those matches? Are they main event worthy?
It really depends. I think the Ricochet Zack match is worthy from like a quality of the two wrestlers. But will those names be enough to get people to come to the Dome that second day? Is that how are those ticket sales doing compared to the first night? I do think the first night is going to be selling well, even if they believe in Shota Umino or not. I think it'll suck because I feel like Zach robbed himself of a main event if he ended up getting booted, and this is a possibility because it's been a lot of rumblings about not only who John Moxley might be seeing on those 2 days, because Moxley's a name they probably believe in a little bit more, especially for that January 5th night. It might be a name that they know that they can get people's eyeballs to watch. And then also on the 4th, it's very much the potential because a lot of those tickets were sold or have been sold off of Naito's name. If Naito but the problem is, in my opinion, for Naito and Hiromu, which is the perceived match, that's what the internet believe we're gonna get, which is a dream match between those two guys of the same fact. Problem is, I don't think they really have the stakes to usurp Shota. I do think they have the story. They have the relationship, but I do think the fans, particularly in Japan, will be interested in that match. But I do know from a worldwide perspective, like what is the focus for the future? I think Zach will main event both matches, but I do think if he don't, you have to look at it and see what was going on. So like if you see Naito in that main event, then you probably can say the sales wasn't looking too good when they projected for Shota Umino to be in that spot along with Zach. But if you don't, I believe New Japan is finally taking that step to say we're going to lean all the way into our worldwide audience with our our European champion and having him in both main events. I think that'll be a nice statement for where they look at Zach. But it's funny you asked me that because I just feel like never before have I ever thought it was a question for the world title match whether or not it would go last in these January 4th shows because that's how big of a deal they are. So I'll be surprised if he get removed, but I do think you should think about it the way I mentioned earlier if he is removed.
Yeah, no, I think if Mox is at Wrestle Dynasty, then he'll main event, irrespective if he's a champion or not. But I think, hopefully, with what we've seen with the G1 and what New Japan are trying to tell us is, yes, it is a new dawn, with maybe matches being main event, you know, more than others. So hopefully, yes, that can get the triple threat, as it was, a main event, the Tokyo Dome. Finally, Fighting Spirit Unleashed was November 8th. The main news coming out of it was the Grizzled Young Veterans beat TMDK for the strong openweight tag titles. It's nice to see GYV correctly used, and it hasn't been a great month for Haste and Thorn, but with the tag league starting, I'm sure they'll be all right. And speaking of tag league and the junior tag league, everything else will be on the New Japan 2024 unedited podcast, along with the historic X Over, which is actually coming along a lot better than I thought. I've actually finished 2023 now, which is a bonus. So, Jaxie, I'll ask you first. I mean, have you enjoyed New Japan these past few months? I know it's been a long time since we caught up, but at the moment, it feels quite exciting times as we head to Wrestle Kingdom.
Definitely. It's been an exciting summer for it, especially with the upcoming young talent that are really making a name for themselves. I think going into the new year, there's even just more excitement to think what's going to come out of not only their Wrestle Kingdom usual event, but they've also got what's the one with the AEW coming up?
Wrestle Dynasty.
It's not yeah, that's it, Wrestle Dynasty. So I'm kind of eager to see what's come out of it, especially when you've got the likes of like Ricochet turning up towards the end there. Like, you know, they're really kind of sowing the seeds for what's to come in a few months' time. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. Gina, did you ever think when you first joined 3 years ago you'll be doing a New Japan podcast?
Definitely not. So I do tend to keep my answers quite short because I am aware that I do still feel like a newbie when it comes to watching New Japan stuff. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's something so different to what I'm used to with WWE and AEW. So it's a lot of fun for sure.
And Monty, I'll leave your final thoughts on New Japan as we go to Wrestle Kingdom. But it's funny that Jaxie and Gina don't consider themselves like experts. We should hear the last couple of hours of them talking. Do you know what I mean?
I think you can see the improvement. It's definitely way more of an investment than it was, and I think that's all you can ask for. It took me a while before I was able to keep up with it or actually keep a schedule about it, and I still struggle at times. And it's funny that you mentioned I'm probably going to have the most criticism of New Japan this year. It's probably been one of the toughest years. And I kind of knew that when you have so much change, but it's been tough for me as a longtime fan because you see so much change in a company that has just been so, they've been a staple for like it. When you watch something be something for like, let's say since 2016, so that's 8 years basically. I've been watching New Japan. They have a formula and it works, and it works. And then don't get me wrong. I really am still invested, and it's just amazing to me how they kind of ramp it up. You can tell they're trying to sell you something big coming into January because everything about the company post G1, it just seemed like they're putting their best foot forward to hand you these story beats going into the big show. And I think that's what I noticed the most, that they really started to pick it up as the year went on and people started to establish themselves. And, I do got to give them credit because they're in uncharted waters. Like I mentioned, in Japan, when you lose that number one guy, when you lose, I don't think people really outside. I know a lot of people have been able to enjoy the moments Okada's been making for people and in the matches in AEW, but I don't think people really understand. This is not like WCW, Raw back in the day or WWE back in the day when you lost a guy and he jumped over. And if it was like that, just imagine at the height of let's just imagine that after Austin came back from the neck injury when he did the Rikishi angle. Just imagine if he decided when he came back he was going to leave and go to another promotion. That's kind of like what you have when you lose a guy like Okada, but it's to a different extent in Japan because every promotion is built around a guy, a set group of guys, of course, overall, but it's usually they all revolve around that guy. And New Japan lost that guy. And it's been tough because you've been seeing a lot. That's the reason why when you ask certain questions, James, about certain decisions that's made and all of that, a lot of times you can just be honest and you can see just from a booking perspective, they're just trying to establish something. They're trying to see what this guy has. Can a Doki, is it just crowd favorite for Doki, or can he carry this title? Sonata, like I said, let's try this. Might not work, but let's just try something new, and let's try to give everybody a wrinkle to add so we can tell better stories along with putting on some of the best wrestlers. Because I think the wrestler quality is still there. I don't think you guys can argue that, but I do think the investment in said wrestling it's been kind of tough to when you have so much good wrestling everywhere. Like I mentioned sometime when I'm watching AEW, it's like I love AEW, I love the quality, but at this point, if you're just gonna give me a good match for the sake of giving me a good match, it's more likely that I'm just gonna come back to that match later than actually pay attention to like the storyline that I actually care about. Mostly because average matches to really good matches, we get hundreds of them. So you really have to do a good job, in my opinion, in this day and age of keeping people invested. And I think that's what's been tough for me a little bit over from a New Japan perspective. And I can be honest about that. So I think if it's been tough for me, I can only imagine what it's been like for people who are just now getting in the groove of really paying attention. Like, it's a lot of stuff you mentioned, James, that from just in my 6 years of watching, they booking wise, they would never do. So it's exciting because they're doing new stuff and you want to keep up with it, but at the same time, I do think it's just been completely different because you almost knew what to expect from New Japan for so long. But so much stuff is changing now. I can never tell you whether people are coming or going. You know.
Well, they're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Do you know what I mean? And if they ain't not
right,
but and again, if it does work, then they can move on it. But this is the problem with New Japan, isn't it? That the young talent isn't quite there yet. You know, even when we talk about Finley or people like that, they're just not at that level. And again, New Japan this time. I mean, I'm glad I've joined here because it means with us all watching it, it is going to hit another boom period. Whether that will take 8 years or not, like WWE did, we don't know.
Right.
But do you know what I mean? Like, it's always
I
stages.
think they're setting it up, and like we'll just see. And I think for me being hopeful, I can see it being positive, but you know it can always go left. So I think they're doing good, but like it's just like I mentioned earlier, it is an adjustment period. And I think that's one of the things you got to kind of take into account. It is an adjustment period.
Without doubt. So that is it. The next time we are in New Japan will be in January for Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. We'll review both shows back to back. And anything that happens in the meantime, we'll probably catch up on it. And like I said, any main shows I'll do on the unedited. So that is it. Don't forget, we're across all social media. X at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR Pod James. You can find the entire WNR team on the banner. Also now on Blue Sky, the WNR Podcast, and Reddit as well. And Monty, this was surprising because I went onto Blue Sky to create a WNR Podcast account, and you'll never guess who I found.
On my account.
So you're on it. You copied me. That's fine.
I've heard of Blue Sky, and it's been recommended to me by quite a few people now. So who knows? You may end up seeing me on there soon too.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a bright spot in the current social media climate. Let's just say it that way. So far, we'll see if it stays that way. But it's the interesting thing. I'm trying to get people to gatekeep it. At the same time, we still need more people because you know what's a Twitter like without people. But at the same time, I don't want too many people because then the trolls and the a-holes might show up too. So we'll see. But I like it so far. I don't know my handle on it, so we'll link up, James, and we'll put that.
Yeah, no, just find it. WNR Podcast on Blue Sky. You better follow Monty on there. And like I said, elsewhere as well. I mean, Jaxie, you plug your stuff. I mean, I know you're going to Blue Sky soon, but you can't be up with a trendy.
Yeah, I mean. We'll see. You'll have to watch the next pod to see whether or not I have joined Blue Sky or not. But so far, you can find me across both X and Twitch at Jaxie Scarlett.
And Gina?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch, X, and Instagram at Purple Pain.
Yeah, Monty, like I said, you're still on X, aren't you?
Yes, at my monthly pod it's still up. Check me out there. I haven't been posting as much because I just don't spend as much time on it, but I do get on and check certain things from time to time. So just keep up with me there for now. I will be linking everything together. If you go to the at my monthly pod, you can see where my Blue Sky is. If you're on there, I did post like a picture of it telling people to follow. So you can check me out there too for now. But right now, at my monthly pod is the main place.
Perfect. The WNR also on Facebook and Instagram. Send us an email to WNRpodcast@gmail.com. YouTube podcast. We've got same time YouTube do SoundCloud on your phone. Also Spotify and iTunes where you can download, subscribe, rate and review there. So that is it. Next episode's next weekend and it's Halloween Havoc review time. But whilst we're here, we'll have a look at the schedule because we've got quite a busy schedule heading out towards the end of the year. People have accused us in the past of taking it easy. We're definitely not. Halloween Havoc next week. The following week will be Full Gear. Survivor Series then on December 7th. And then it's NXT year end with Deadline. And then it's this time of year again, guys. The WNR Awards and year end all coming around. It's crazy, isn't it, But it is probably my favourite time of year anyway. But we're going to get to that. But until then, I've been James Rowlands and I was joined by the fantastic Jaxie Scarlett. Jaxie, thank you very much for joining me. And I think you showed you know a lot more than you let on.
Well, I mean, we're getting there. I'm slowly but surely learning more and more when it comes to New Japan Wrestling. It's been fun to review. So hopefully I'll feel more like a pro next time.
And if people didn't enjoy it, the mind of Monty is to blame. Monty, it's your fault. I'm going to say that here.
Totally his fault. Blame it on him.
Yeah, it's your fault, Monty.
If you're listening at this point, you didn't enjoy, you're an idiot.
Do you know what? I'm interested how many people do listen as soon as I go, so that is it, who actually listen to this last bit here, if we can actually say anything, but I'm sure they do.
Yeah, that's
They
why I
love it.
chose to insult them. So if you're still listening at this point, you're an
the
idiot.
hardcore. We love you.
If you're still listening to it and you
Well,
didn't
most
like
of the
it,
people wait till the end so they can hear the insults.
That's what I say. I didn't realise
hear our
did
true
it.
feelings. No, just
Yeah. And of course, the genius of Gina. 3 years, Gina, and still going strong, eh?
Well, I'm surprised you guys aren't sick of me. But there are 2 of me, so fair play to you guys.
I mean,
Well, Jaxie doesn't like
you
it, but I'll
didn't
leave
ask
it there.
earlier.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, you should have heard before we started. It was awful.
Shitster. You're such a
shitster.
shitster.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.